We're live.
Good evening, everyone. We welcome faculty, staff, students, and community members to tonight's event of Native American dance. We are very fortunate to have Mario Castellano and his group tonight as part of MSJC's Native American Heritage Month celebration. Before we begin, I want to thank our sponsors, beginning with the Student Equity and Achievement Committee, which has provided the main source of funding for tonight's event. And I particularly want to point out Dean Rebecca Teague and Dean Alma Ramirez for their very strong support. I also want to thank the Latinx Indigenous Alliance here at MSJC, who have worked very hard to organize this event and the other events of this month. I also want to thank Jose Hernandez and Suzanne Ortega for all their help with the flyers and other logistical issues. This truly is a team effort, and we really appreciate everyone's sincere help in making this happen tonight. So thank you, and now I'm going to pass it to Dr. Enrique Murillo, who is going to give us a land acknowledgement.
Yale, in Plaza Kamate. Manchikweo Niaka Chilapa, Paunikitak, Sewe Siwat, Plaza Kamate, Tata Wewe, Snesh Palewe, Nachmineke Ninemis, Incatiolo Mitritani, Tatoxin, Piale. Hello all. I'm Enrique Murillo. I'm a professor at Cal State San Bernardino, director of the Latino Education Advocacy Days and our doctoral program in educational leadership. And first of all, I want to thank MSJC for allowing lead projects at Cal State San Bernardino to be a partner on this. Thank you particularly to Elias, to my good friend, hermano carnal Elias. I want to also welcome and thank you, Mario, my nephew Mario, who's going to be our featured speaker tonight. We're celebrating Native American Month, and I just want to say, a few things. I'm very happy to see the creation of the Latinx Indigenous Alliance at MSJC. Identities are often misunderstood to be mutually exclusive. And for many of us who identify as Chicano or Latino and so forth, our identity is not exclusive to the Native American. I mean, by far we know as Chicanos, our culture, foods, our roots are native, they're indigenous. For me in particular, Taue Yoreme with ethnic roots in Sinaloa. So on behalf of our group and our partnership, our collaborative, we want to recognize and respect the local indigenous peoples of Southern California, people like the Serrano, the Cahuilla, the Cupeño, Tongva, Tataviem, Shumash, Kumeyaay, and many others, because they are rightfully the traditional stewards of the lands here in Southern California. And there's this enduring relationship that exists between indigenous peoples and, of course, their traditional territories. So they are what we call keepers of the land. It's also important to understand that there's a long history that has brought each of us here to this land in Southern California. And it's important for us to understand our histories, our identities, our place within this land here, within this history of Southern California. This land acknowledgement, I just want to say, I'm not speaking in past tense, and it's not historical, something long ago, although yes, it is historical. But what I'm saying is that the colonialism or the effects of colonialism are still exist today. It's an ongoing process, and we need to be mindful of that in our present participation. And so when we talk about the land, the land is part of who we are. It's a mixture of our blood, our past, our current, our future. And for those of us who in the native communities, we live in the generations. So we carry our ancestors with us wherever we go. I carry my ancestors with me from Sinaloa here to Southern California. They are here. But of course, we have to always acknowledge the people that are buried here, the people who are the traditional stewards of this land. And it's important for us to, as we build movements, to build real, authentic relationships with indigenous peoples, in addition to just our normal lives, employment, family obligations. Indigenous peoples are working to heal their trauma. We're gonna learn about some of this trauma, and we encourage question and answer throughout the evening. But trauma is a reoccurring theme in our communities. So the people are trying to heal. They're trying to relearn their languages, trying to relearn elements of their culture, things that have been lost, so that they can support the nations. And this is good for all of us, because it's important to understand land displacement, and how that works, and what can we do to support indigenous communities and their struggles. And in my eyes, that includes, that respect and that recognition really extends to what I would call the detribalized diaspora. There's the tribalized and then also the detribalized. And so each one of us, even though we're native, we have a certain history that we're connected to. And so as Chicano Latinos, we have to do the work of recovering our own roots as we help the local indigenous peoples deal with their struggles. We got to do our part to help, and at the same time learn about ourselves as descendants of the maize or corn-based cultures of greater Mesoamerica. We ourselves displaced of land, have found ourselves as settlers in the homelands and of other indigenous peoples. So migrants, like our parents, grandparents, many of them fleeing political and economic violence and colonial structures in their own countries of origin, like Mexico or Central America, only for us to come here to the United States to face coloniality and racial domination that of here in the United States. And so the structures here often manage to erase our own indigeneity. So I'm happy that with the creation of the Latinx Indigenous Alliance, that we need to see ourselves as connected in that thread. And with that, I want to pass it back to Elias and thank him again for the invitation to be here with you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Murillo, for that. Really appreciate that. I want to start off thanking, of course, Jose Hernandez for his support, and obviously Dr. Tavares. Let me do a special recognition to the Latinx Indigenous Alliance Committee. They know who they are. They have worked tirelessly all years, really starting since the summer, to put all the activities together, really kicking off the Hispanic Heritage Month, which that committee in and of itself did an awesome job, and they're very supportive. So you know who you are. There are quite a bit out there that are probably viewing it today. So much support, much love for all you guys have done. This is not the making of myself, nor John, nor Carlos. This is really the making of all of us coming together and really making this something notable for our school, our students, and really for our community. So again, I want to thank you. I want to go just really quick down the list before we get to Mario. I also want to reach out and say thank you to John Torres, Professor John Torres, for accepting my invitation to be here to be one of the panelists. I just found out today that he is actually part of the Navajo tribe. And so he teaches anthropology. Am I correct on that? He teaches anthropology here at the San Jacinto campus. He's been with us all the bat, I think between 3 and 4 years, give or take. Yeah. And so we're happy that he is here. John, why don't you come in and say some quick words to our guests that are on the other side of YouTube? Just do a little quick welcome. This is, this is your time, brother. Come on in. Just go ahead. Make sure you unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Don't forget the unmute part.
There you go.
Well, yat shino dene shine Jean Tosh in the shed or cleaning the she nakai bashin no that dene nakai the chaneli order the nishini eat at anakunshin asha. So I'm happy to be here. I'm hail from the Navajo Nation. I've been here at MSJC 4 years, but I spent most of my career in the Four Corners area. And I'm very happy to be here. I'm happy to be on the campus, and I'm happy to be part of this panel. And I'm looking forward to the bird dances for tonight. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Really appreciate that. Also, he was already introduced, but I just got to put a plug in for my friend, Dr. Enrique Murillo. I've been with him for a solid, almost going on 11 years. COVID is the only thing that really kind of split hairs between us, and I couldn't make it to that 10th year pin. But he did assure me that when we come back live,
When we come back, it's there. It's all right. It's good.
he did assure me. Yes.
The Earth Mother is telling us we're suffocating her, maybe, so the Earth Mother is kind of putting us in check, putting the humans in check. So we're in the corner right now. We're in timeout in the corner right now.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you, Dr. Murillo, for being with us. So both between Dr. Murillo and John Torres, they're going to be taking, and you'll get chats from time to time. A strong technician here, Jose Hernandez, he's running the YouTube live on the other side, and he'll be fielding questions, bring them in, and then feed them to both Dr. Enrique Murillo and also to John Torres. So at this point, our featured speaker is ready to go, and so let me speak a little bit about him before he actually gets ready to do his first performance. Mario Castellanos is a tribal member from Los Coyotes, land of Coahuila, Supeno Indians located in Northeast San Diego County, Warner Springs. He will discuss pre-European contact with Native American life and recognize the tribal clan leadership and identities in the tribal villages. He will discuss the Spanish, Mexican, and American occupation of tribal lands and political struggle for California Indians resistance. He comes from a great wealth of information. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and pass it over to Mario Castellanos, and he will introduce himself and actually really introduce what he will be doing. And Mario, we are so glad you're with us. This is it. Take it away, sir. Thank you.
Miachin, Nenetu, Mario, Nechem, Bachuapa, Kupanga, Wilakanga, Umunimikam, Daklis with them, Chemuk with them, Evil them. Oh, Umunimikam, Iso Sivayawachim, Nahanavicham, Nachutakikam, Chunakat, Damasekale, Wanachiam, Alangish, Gabriel, and the Chunika family. Achima, Umun Emem, Muka, and Tema Yahweh. Amna. Oh. So with that, I just wanted to open up in the traditional way. Just gonna light some tobacco. Here I'm coming from the Los Coyotes Indian Reservation, located in Warner Springs in Northeast San Diego County. And today, I wanted to speak a little bit, as Mr. Elias was saying, and Dr. Murillo, and thank you guys in MSJC for having us out here today, for me to offer a little insight into some of the Native struggles and the history. Definitely that's important, and thank you, Dr. Murillo, for those words, because that's definitely important. This is why I do what I do, because I feel like my ancestors, their story needs to be told. It needs to be out there, and it's just a calling that it's whenever I have an opportunity to tell this story, I would love to tell the story. So put it out there so that people understand California history, because a lot of the California history is, some of it is watered down, but we can tell our side of the story, that we're still here as Native people, and we're still struggling and fighting to maintain our identities, our culture, our family life, our clans, our tribal governments. So we're still here. We're still here throughout everything in America that has happened. So today I want to introduce a little bit. I have my daughter with me, Rita. I have some of my nieces, my nephews, right here hiding in the shadows. I have my beautiful girl, Ruby, Ruby, and my niece, and then I have my son, Isel, here with me. And what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna do a bird singing. And we're here on the Indian reservation. And a little bit about when I opened up about the words that I was stating, I'm thanking my ancestors and giving them the due respect in the native tongue and the Kuya language. I'm acknowledging all of them by traditional name. We have the Isel Siva Yawachim, the Coyotes watering hole. We have the Arenas, the Segundo families. We have the Temawanich, the Nordis. We have all these different families and clans that are up here that we're all a society, we're a tribe. So I give the respect to my ancestors to let them know that we're still here in that language, because my ancestors didn't speak English. So I have to acknowledge them in that language. I have, and that's a struggle that we're today trying to maintain and bring back the language. We still have about 6 native speakers left of the language. They're kind of spread out, but it is an endangered language, and it's there's a lot of struggles going on. I'll go into depth when we begin the lecture. But for now, me and my son are gonna sing some Kuya bird songs. The Kuya bird songs are time immemorial. They're the beginning of our creation. They're different cycles of songs. They talk about the different things that the Kuya people experience. Some of them were traveling. That's why they're called Kuya bird songs. We traveled, we migrated, like a lot of other cultures. We went through, like Moses, when they went to the desert, and all these different, huh? No, not. Well, all these, like a lot of stories, a lot of cultures out there have stories that they were looking for their promised land. So the Kuya people, we were looking for our promised land too. And we encountered a lot of different people and a lot of different things, and we sang songs. Our songs were passed through our history was passed through songs. And eventually we decided that the promised land was where we started. And we, this first song is gonna talk about when we landed in the San Jacinto Mountains, and we just got there and we journeyed as birds. It's, you know, like as we're birds. So the people sat down and they rested. And as we rested, it was time to begin that journey again, to get up and to repopulate and to go out into the territories in Riverside County, which is the Kuya territory that we have all the way out to the Arizona border. My tribe is in Northeast San Diego County. We're the southernmost Kuya tribe. To the south of us, we have the Kumiais, and then we have the Liseños to the east of us, and the Cupeños, and then the Kuyas to the northern and northern eastern. So these songs that we're gonna sing right now, some of them are very ancient. Some of them we don't have the words for, because any language is an evolving, growing, living language. So some of them are very ancient. But the song we're gonna sing here is talking about the people who are getting up and they're rising and they're going on their journey, and they have their sacred staff and they have their sacred headdresses, and they're coming with their song and their power, and the leader is going with them, the net. Okay. And so we're gonna share a little bit, and the women are gonna show you their style of dance, and we're gonna show the style of dance. So first we'll show what the women we're gonna dance. Okay, ready? So with that, the first song I wanted to start with, it's part of a series of the cycle of songs, and it's considered a creation story song. And it's a real slow beat kind of song, and it's just talking about, there's a whole series of bird songs, the whole cycle. And usually there could be between 200 to 500 songs in a cycle. Um, it's it's telling the story in the language. Of course, I don't really know the language. I'm learning it, and we have a group of young men that are trying to take up the opportunity to learn the language because it's definitely needed. So with that, so this one, so if you saw the women, they kind of sway a little bit, and then they kind of do this little hop. You saw many times, and they kind of just go like this. And this is the women in the ceremony with the songs, and then I'm gonna show you now how the men, how we dance. And this would normally would be a big, large gathering of seniors. Go ahead, Mara. My son's gonna lead this one. I'm gonna dance. Had me out there dancing for a minute. So that song, it's called the Badger song. And what the song is saying, the Badger, he's looking up, he's looking down. And Huna is like the little brother. Huna, yeah. Hunwe is the big brother, is bear, who's very sacred to us, the grizzly bear. But Huna is the little brother. And so the Badger, he's looking up, he's looking down. Lukulewe means looking. Temaika is up, Supaika is down. There's more to that story, but I won't go in depth. But so the men, we kind of move our hands, and then also we have a ribbon shirts. The ribbon shirts are kind of connecting us with the energy, with the earth, kind of just swaying. It's swaying, and we're supposed to pick up, and it's our movement. It's a movement. So it's connecting us to that movement. So anyways, guys, so these are the ribbon shirts that the men now we wear. Back then it was different, but this is today more the what we wear now at the gatherings. And as you see, my son has his shirt, his color. We choose our own colors. It's a lot of work to get ribbon shirts. Me and my son were part of a group with the Mount Kuya singers, and just thankful today for our elders that created the opportunities for us to be here and to continue this tradition, the bird singing tradition. I don't myself personally claim to be a bird singer. I just sing Kuya bird. A bird singer back in those days was a whole way of life. It was a whole strict way, learning the language, the songs. Today it's a little bit more Americanized. So today we're just trying to cope with that change and trying to bring it back to that traditional way. We don't know if we can ever go back to the traditional way, but we're trying the best we can, especially with the elders when they tell us.
Mario, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
So, okay, so oftentimes I hear people, oh, bird song, that means it must be about birds. Could you clear that up? I mean, the songs mention animals, and they may be a bird, but bird songs don't mean they're necessarily about birds. So I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, but maybe you can clarify for people like the bird songs.
Okay, yes. So the bird songs, some of it is, how do you say that word? Like figuratively, we're traveling like birds, our migration, but then some of them are not always about the birds. And a lot of the songs that we sing in our cycles, they're just called bird songs. But every tribe of people had different songs. So the Serrano had like the Bighorn Sheep songs, and the Kumeyays, the Ipay Tipay, they have some of them have the salt songs, some of them have the lightning songs, the Kutan. So the songs they're different by each people, but people just hear a rattle and they just assume it's all bird. And sometimes they are bird because our cultures have been intermixed. You know, we've gone to different places. They've come here, we've gone there, we've intermarried. So some of that culture has been blended, but but there's other types of other birds that are out there. Each tribe back in the day, even each clan back in the day, had different cycles of songs. Some of them were coyote songs. Some of them were about their clans, the Wildcats. So our songs, they're more about the history and the story and the migration. We have creation story songs. We have the coyote songs. We have a different variety of songs. There's a lot of different songs out there, but the ones we're singing are the bird songs, and they're more. And that one, except the first one was the creation, and then we had the badger. But okay, we're gonna sing another one. I mean, we're gonna sing this song, the hummingbird, the chucha. Yes.
How bird songs were used as a way of like mating time.
Okay, so yes, that's very important. Thank you. So the bird songs were social. They were very social. It wasn't very strict and like you can't mess up. It's ceremony. You know, it was social gathering. So the women, as they're dancing like the bird, you see how they're kind of hopping. The men, like me, like I'm dancing. We would dance out there and we would try to attract a mate. You know, we're trying to snag auntie out there, but we're dancing. You know, we're dancing. And the women are like, hey, you look good, you know, like just like you would go to a club on the dance floor. So we're out here, you know, trying to, you know, do our thing too. So it's normal. It's normal. Calm down. So is that what you wanted? Is that what you said? Okay. So I just had to make that clear. So of course the men too were dancing kind of like birds, and the women are dancing like birds. It's a women and a man. It's duality, social. And the women were very modest when they danced. Yes. It just kind of hopped up, and they had only about like 2 or 3 different styles. And our famous red dog, get out of here. Okay, next one. Okay, we're gonna sing the hummingbird song. This song is about a bird, Tucho. We have a clan from Los Coyotes that's named after the hummingbird, Tuchina victim, and they're the Chaparosa family. And this is an effect of some of the transition from the Spanish and then the Mexican and then the American period. So of course the Spanish, when they took over California, the chaparrosas were chuparosa. They were chuparosa in the Mexican era too. And then when the Americans took over, they changed that chupa to a chapa, and now it's chaparrosa. And this is an example of some of the, of course, some of the other names too, like Isul Siva Yawachin, they changed it to Siva because they couldn't spell that and they would make it complicated. So there's different changes that I'm going to explain a little later, but this is a hummingbird song. Okay. Also forgot to explain in the end when we do that. That's kind of a way of us like declaring, like we sang it, it's been done, and it's like that's it. Kind of like you would be in church and you'd be like, amen. You know, some of the other nations are like, oh. So with us, it's that and we're just giving that respect to that song, and we're saying that we sang it, it's done. Also, kind of wanted to mention a little bit about the singing. I've been very thankful and blessed that I could be here today to sing the Kuya Bird. There was a time when I wasn't in my right mind and I was involved in a lot of negativity. I wasn't involved in my tribe or my culture or my people. I was in and out of prisons and stuff. And I got my life together. I got my act, I got sober, and I started trying to get involved because I wanted to do more. And my ancestors called me to come forward to do this. And at the time I didn't realize it until years into it. And then I thought, how can I do this? You know, I'm an ex-drug addict, alcoholic, criminal, but you know what? I just think it made for a more humbling experience because not everybody's chosen, you know, and I was chosen, and I was thankful for my teachers. And when I look back, you know, there's this long succession of elders, of leaders that have passed these songs down, and it's only passed down to certain individuals that are chosen. And so I'm thankful for my teacher, Will Madrigal, from the Kuya Reservation, and his father, Bill, and then also our teacher, Alvino Siva. And Alvino Siva was from the Los Coyotes Indian Reservation, and there was a lot of other teachers out there, about 8 or 9 of them. And there was Joe Potencio from Agua, and Matt Pablo, Gene Pablo, and there's Walter Holmes from Morongo, Ernie Murillo from Torres Martinez, Caterino Torres from Agua, Alvino Siva, Robert Levi from Torres Martinez. So there's, and I might be forgetting some other ones out there, and I apologize if I am, but these are the teachers that in the 60s, the Kuya bird songs almost disappeared. but because of their efforts and they saw this, they came together and
He's coming right back in. He's coming
Okay.
in.
Just so people know, he's on
They
the
wanted to teach the
reservation,
next-
and so the Wi-Fi is not very good for
Right.
our viewers.
yes, yeah, I
Mario?
apologize. Yeah, we're deep in the mountains in San Diego. Yes,
Yeah, Mario,
Yes.
John is taking a question from the audience. I believe it's from Sonia. He might have already stated it, but he'll repeat it again.
what's the question?
Hi.
Is it in that or is he
Well,
gonna answer?
if
I-
I may, there's a couple questions here, Mario. Well, one of them, again, if you could just remind us where you at, where are you? We know you're on the Los Coyotes reservation, but just tell us again, and I'll wait for you just to acknowledge that you can hear what I'm saying. Okay, can you hear what I'm saying? Okay, so we do have a question from Aaron Blackhorse, and Aaron Blackhorse is asking, how do we acknowledge? And I think he said invite. It says integrate or integrate. How do we acknowledge and integrate our ancestors and Native elders into our studies as students? And just let me say a few things, and because I know, because oftentimes, Mario, many students live, I guess you could say, a bifurcated reality. So you have one reality of growing up in the hood, in Riverside, being part of the hood reality, and then you have the reality as being a student, right? You got your life together and you went back and you got your bachelor's, you got your associates and then your bachelor's, but then there's another college, there's another university, which is your culture, right? And so you're going into, so you're learning from the elders, and so sometimes there's like different, you hear what I'm saying, right? And so so how do you integrate all these elements of the different identities, the different, how do you bring that into just your livelihood?
It is a lot of dedication, like my brother mentioned. It's a lot of commitment, and it's one of the most difficult things that I had to do was balancing, working and surviving in one world and being a tribal member and an active community member in the other. I think a lot of it, some of it started in school, but a lot of it started outside of school. And that's when I first got invited to Sweat Lodge, and then I started going to ceremony, and then by just meeting other people, because there's a whole nother teaching there in the Sweat Lodge. And my elders would entice me that I wanted to learn, and at the time I didn't know. And they're, hey, we have Peace and Dignity coming up. Why don't you run? And I think the first time I ran was in 2012. And I ran the Peace and Dignity, and I met a good group of people that were strong, and they used to sweat on the Cahuilla Reds. And so that's where I started. And I started with Aztec dancing. I knew nothing about Cahuilla. And then I started going up there because my son wanted to learn. He wanted me to teach him, and I couldn't teach him anything. I didn't know anything. So I thought maybe if I bought him a rattle and sent him out there, he could learn. But I had to do it myself. I realized that it doesn't start with nobody but me. And so I had to go out and pursue that. But it was difficult because they don't just let anybody in. Even though I was Cahuilla and I'm from a tribe, they didn't let me in. But now I understand why. Because they only want to take the people that are serious. They want the people that are committed, and they need the people that are going to go the long run, not stop halfway. So being that, you have to be of service. And by being of service to other tribal elders in the community, you start to appreciate and feel the community appreciate you back. And I think that's why with my with Joseph here, my friend Joseph, who I look at as a student, he wants to learn. He's been coming around. And when I see someone like that that's dedicated, I'm more than willing to teach him and even trying to push him to go a little bit further. Because I know in the end that people help me and I can help him, he can help his people. And that's what we do as Native people. It's a reciprocal relationship where we help each other. It's not just helping me, it's helping him and helping each other. So also just that's how I contribute to the your ancestors. And that's how you, yeah, then that's how you be a good ancestor. That's how, my ancestors need me to acknowledge them. And because the more I get out there and the more I can show that, hey, I'm from this clan and these people, and I can acknowledge them, they're with me and they're always with me. You always have to be open-minded. And like I say, you have to walk like you have 5,000 ancestors behind you, because you do, So I live my life like that every day. I always ask myself, what can I do today, or what can I do in the future to honor my ancestors and to bring that pride to them and to me. So when I die, I know I did my part, anything and everything I could to honor them and to honor my people, and to be a good ancestor. It's just like the elders, Albino Siva. What if you talking about him forever? Where my kids and their kids, and there's gonna be a great line of succession of, there was Albino Siva, Will Madrigal, Mario Castellano Jr., and whoever else comes after, the succession of singers, So, and that all goes back. So I'm thankful today that I could be a part of that and doing something for my people.
Mario?
Yes.
We're going to take a question. I'm going to ask John Torres to field the question of Eric that came in. Would you do that, please, John? Thank you.
Sure. Eric asked, what are the major benefits and drawbacks that you have seen from reparation programs? I'm not actually too sure what reparation programs he's referring to. I think most of the successful programs I've seen in Indian country have been internal programs, tribes helping themselves from within under, 638 contracts with the feds, or, maybe tribes helping other tribes. Of course, gaming has helped a lot of tribes in a lot of ways, and to help create programs for language retention and, those kinds of things. So I'm guessing that's what he's getting at. So I've seen some positive things come out of everything so far. Gaming is mixed, but that's not really a program.
Well, you know what? I think some of the good things have been definitely some of like the Tribal TANF programs. That helped me out. I was on Tribal TANF for about 4 years, and that got me started. And it does help as long as you don't become dependent on it. That's why there is a drawback to that. It's a program to help natives, and they helped me out a lot. They helped me with school. They helped me with my mileage reimbursement, my books. There's Walking Show. There's all these different programs, the native programs out there that are to help our people. But also, sometimes it can create some division. Sometimes it becomes a little competitive. People are competing, or people get angry because they don't get certain things. But it's all in due time. It's all really at the Creator's time. And if you get it, you get it. You don't. And I used to joke about stuff like that. I remember one of my elders, and he was really busy, and I wanted to be involved. I was like, man, I should be involved too. And I wasn't, and I was a little bit jealous. And after that incident, I got so involved and so busy that I kind of regretted it. I was like, damn, it's a lot of commitment. I didn't realize what I was asking Creator. So you have to be very careful what you're going to ask the Creator, because you might get it tenfold, and you don't know what to do. We have a lot of programs up here on the reservation. We have, of course, we have revenue sharing with the bigger tribes with casinos, share with the little tribes. But sometimes the tribal members, they don't make good use of that funding. They use it for whatever, drugs and alcohol. Also the gaming, Indian casinos, sometimes you get somebody who gets 20, 30,000 a month, and they don't feel a need to go to college. They're like, why do we need to go to college? Because we have money. Most people like me, I want to go to college and try to get a good job. I did at first. Now, I'm just happy with what I have now. But because I work for my tribal admin, and there's more to just the money. It's a sense of pride and giving back to my people, and that's what I feel comfortable. But the revenue sharing is definitely kind of, it's done good and it's done bad. And so we're trying to figure out, like, how do we engage our youth to get involved and to take this, the culture, because it's hard. It's hard living in these two worlds, and I didn't take it seriously in the beginning, and now I do. But so I'm not blaming them, and I can't get mad because of my own experience. So we have different programs, to help, and of course there is some. I'm not gonna get into too much, but there's some members that do get mad. They kind of want more, or like it's definitely like right now, COVID. There's people losing jobs, people losing housing, and we can't do much for them. We have to go at the speed of our tribal government too. And we can't have specialty treatment for everybody, and some people expect that. That's my family. Why don't you look out for me? That could be another drawback, and it's like, because everybody's related on the reservation. And so, and I was telling my brother about that too. Sometimes we have a problem, and even though I get off work, it's still a problem because people come to my house. They know where I live, and they're my cousins, or they're my family, and they're like, hey, what about this? And what about, so there's an inner mingle of family and politics and, you know, money, and it could get really dirty really quick. And also you can sometimes have corruption. So there's a lot, and education, I think, honestly, has been the best thing to help my tribe. I got educated and I came back to get in my tribe. I'm an honest person. I'm not going to steal from my tribe. And that's kind of what we need too. We need people to be educated. That's our biggest tool is education. This is how we get back. This is how we give back. You know, we can write grants and we can interpret treaties and we can make business contracts, because before we had to employ a non-native to do that, you know? So sometimes it's hard when who's going to do that? Well, you're going to do that. And then it's like, why me? It's like, well, you have to do it. Did you think the next person was going to? If you feel like somebody needs to do it, then do it. You know, and that's kind of what I did. I had to jump in and just do it. That's the question.
Very good. I do have a question. This can go either way with Dr. Murillo or John. We noticed the inequities and the disparity between tribes. Certainly Mario has done a good job to kind of really go in depth with what's happening here in San Diego. But across the nation, you see disparities between tribes. I mean, you know, some have more than others. Why is that? Why is that challenge between the tribes? Why can really flourish and others don't flourish as much, or they're out there versus others? I don't know if it's size, if it's location. If you guys can provide a little bit of knowledge on our viewers about that, and how is that and why?
Next. You want to answer that question? No, you can. Okay, so and my brother did bring up a good point, and this is right spot. You guys can go by the fire. So this is a good point. And some of it is location, because see, my tribe, we could build a casino on our land because we have sovereignty. You know, we have not control, but we have access to our land. But the surveys and the studies have shown that people that have casinos mostly are within the cities, are off a major freeway. So we're 50 minutes away from the nearest city in Temecula. If you're coming from Temecula, you're gonna pass Pachanga, you're gonna pass Pauia, you're gonna pass Recon, Paula. You're gonna pass all these casinos before you even get to ours. And there would be no point in.
John, go ahead and pick that up, John. Please.
Well, I think a big part of it is that, you know, prior to colonization, you know, there was a complete sort of system intact that the entire hemisphere used. And once that was disrupted, then there became the haves and the have-nots. I mean, part of sharing and integrated aspects of, you know, redistribution of wealth has always been part of everybody's culture. So if you were American Southwest, you traded with the people here in California on the coast, and those people traded with the people of Northern California and the Northwest coast, and Southwest then passed that stuff on to the Woodlands cultures in the Midwest, and now, you know, I mean, you know, there are about 300,000 Navajos on reservation where I'm from, and yeah, we have a casino, but 80% of the people don't have running water, 60% don't have electricity, 90% don't have cell phones. So there's a lot of infrastructure that we have to begin to build. Even, you know, something like 85% of the roads on the reservation are unpaved. So just getting to school during the winter becomes a chore. So there's built-in inequity in the federal system that's already there. And, you know, there's a lot of just uphill battles we have to do. And, you know, it's always easier to fight amongst ourselves than to fight what the real problem is. And I think that's what happens a lot of times.
Very good.
That's
Thank you. Thank you, John. Dr. Murillo, some insight on that as well, or even just on cultural barriers within tribes or whatnot.
Well, I mean, there's always been a self-help that's really saved a lot of the indigenous peoples, right? There's this myth that, and maybe Mario, do you pay taxes? Right? It's funny because there's this myth that Native people just get everything for free and they don't pay no taxes and get all these things. But think about in the history of wealth, land, right? Land has always been, wealth has always been concentrated in the land. So think of the idea that the United States, as a kind of a settler country, settled on top of of lands that have already been occupied. And so by and large, the wealth of the United States is kind of based on two things: the genocide of the indigenous peoples, and then bringing over Africans as free slave labor. So kind of the origins of race are tied into this the economy of the United States. And so by and large, the California peoples are survivors of genocide. And maybe Mario can talk about that. There's an untold history in California that we think of genocide as maybe just what happened to the Jewish people or Armenian genocide, but we really need to have a conversation about the genocide of the American peoples here in this hemisphere. But if we're here in California, we really need to learn the history of California peoples. And so Mario is a descendant of peoples who have survived despite all the attempts to exterminate them completely, right? And so, and of course, the last 30 years, you've seen a self-help where a lot of the tribes have done gaming, or they started off with bingo, just things to help themselves, you know. But at the same time, I think of, look at all the help they're doing. Once the tribes bring in wealth, they share the wealth. No, Mario, the wealth is shared.
Yes. Yes, and kind of going back to what you were stating, yeah, there was a lot of different systems that came in and did attempt to wipe. Some of them came to assimilate us, some of them came to convert us, some of them wanted us to abandon our ways. I mean, we had the Spanish system and the missions along the coast of California. You know, they were brutal, and a lot of the tribes along the coast are not recognized. They lost a lot of their culture, obviously all of it, most of it, and they converted and chose. We were deep in the mountains, so we were not affected as much from the missions or the outside or the European people that came in. But there was a time when we were almost nearly wiped out, and that was smallpox and warfare. We were trying to protect our homeland, and in my family line around the 1850s, we have family members marrying family members, third and fourth cousins, trying to repopulate because we couldn't go to the city of Temecula to mix out and risk bringing diseases into our villages. So it's kind of hard sometimes living with and understanding that, you know, because some people don't get it. You know, they're like, you know, you should be proud Native, but it's like, yeah, but you don't understand that history of what's been done. You know, my people were killed under the flag, you know, because of being simply Native. You know, we were the enemies of the state. You know, there exists a perpetual state of war with the natives, right, of the land. So, and it was always resources, and so we would try to fight back to survive. And in California, there was a lot of fighting. There was some people peaceful. And I wanted to thank our tribe today who made that opportunity possible for us to be here. You know, Francisco Mocate and Chapuli of the Cuillas, and we also had Antonio Gara, Juan Antonio, and this is early California, 1849 to 1852. They died. So, and they led revolts against the people. And some people, depending on what side you look at history, you know, to us, they're our heroes because they helped us secure our reservations where the people were like, you can keep your land, you know, we don't want it anyways. Because we were a strong people, we were proud, and it is not always about superior firepower that can conquer a nation. That's why we're still in Afghanistan and Iraq, because you have to kill the will of the people. And if the people have the will to survive, they're gonna fight for their survival. I mean, you can't get any more dedicated than that, you know. And that's kind of happening in the Middle East where these people, they're suicide bombers because they're at that point, you know, it's live or die. And if I'm gonna die, I'm gonna take people with me. So America, they've done it, and they've done it throughout this whole country. It's just when they got to the West Coast, they realized a little bit. They didn't learn, but they realized, you know, these fights, they have to end sometime, right? And they gave us the smallpox blankets, and you know, and then the rations, and they were not a lot enough to sustain us. But the reservation systems created a stronger political unity for the people to come together, to revert back to our traditional ways of not depending on Walmart and Stater Brothers, you know, we could depend on the land again like we were supposed to. But there's always been some kind of effort for the native people to just disappear, you know, just to go away, the Indian problem. But so today, like we're just, and it's hard because I always remember that. I always remember my ancestors. I have them on my wall, and I walk every day knowing that they're with me. And this land that I'm on, they walked this land. They fought the army, you know. But we're here today. They gathered, and I'm here today on the traditional land, and I'm thankful today for that, to have my ancestors with me. The sharing, there is some sharing of the wealth. I don't know, the wealth can be a good thing, could be a bad thing, you know, because my tribe, we're not rich, we're poor, we don't have a casino, we don't have a lot of money. But we do have original land, and we do have our culture. And that was something, because it's like really all we have left. Our tribe was one of the well, we had Alvino, and we had Catherine Silva, and some of these elders that helped us and kept the culture alive, and allowed for this to be. I mean, there's not a lot of people practicing on our reservation, but it's still here, and we're still in that game. We're still helping and teaching and passing that on forward. So as long as that, I don't really care too much for a big house or a nice car. It would be nice, but because I have the culture and I have something to pass on to my kids, that's more important to me. You know, it's always a struggle to understand all that. You know.
I got a question for Dr. Murillo. Dr. Murillo, of course, you've been around education or in education for quite some time, and you've seen the struggles of the Native Americans of either transferring in or lack of going to school, or the struggles of even just starting school. What do you think? Why do you think that is? Why is it that it's a very small percentage? The struggles are real, and as much as we persuade, we put programs together to really stimulate and really kind of really try to get them to come to school. Why do you think that struggle was there to have them march forward into education?
Okay, well then, this is maybe a good. I'll just speak a little bit to it, but Mario can speak to this very specifically. Most people don't know the history of boarding schools, right? Native American children were separated, you can say stolen, kidnapped from their parents and taken to other parts of the country. We have a good example here of Sherman in Riverside. If those of you who know the history of Sherman in Riverside, that was a Native American boarding school. But the government relocated children separated from their families, and now this was a common practice. And there was very harsh disciplinary punishment. People were beaten up, people were starved. You know, the children, students, and there's a whole generation of folks who honestly have like a love-hate relationship with education, because there's a generation. So when they think of education, they think of schooling, and they think of the terrible trauma that they experienced. And so all of a sudden you have these new generations, and they're trying to get an education. But then you also have some of the gaming tribes who are bringing in a lot of money. And so some of the kids are saying, well, maybe I don't need to go to school after high school because I'm bringing in thousands of dollars already. So it's a mixed bag. So it's like a love-hate relationship going on with education. But maybe Mario can speak to the boarding schools and you know, those issues.
Okay, so and about the 1890s, this, what was it, Captain? The Captain Colonel, I think, got a bright idea about an Indian boarding school system, and he called it and Richard Pratt, and he said, "Kill the man." So this program, what they would do is first assimilate us. So they, my mom was part of this system. CPS came in, they used CPS to take her away, and they put her into a Catholic school. The Catholic school, they would punish the kids. Even the boarding schools, they would punish the kids for speaking their language, for practicing any identity. they would cut the hair, tell them to honor our gods, I guess, our belief systems, and to be American. We had to be American. So my grandmother, Pauline Chunacut, spoke 3 languages. She's 4 languages: Swahili, Cupeño, and Kumeyaay, and English. My mom, she's full-blooded, but she doesn't speak any of those languages. And a matter of fact, she's a little bit I don't want to say it's, but she's a little bit like whitewashed. She's grew up in that fog of identity. And even some of my aunts, when I tell them I do what I do, and I go to sweat lodges and stuff, they say, "You're on the wrong path. You should be worshiping Jesus, and you shouldn't be doing all that." So today it's very difficult, because even amongst family, we all have our different beliefs, but this is the path I chosen to take. But the boarding school system, it did a lot of damage, and because of that gap between the 1890s and the 1950s, 70s, it went on to about the 1980s. Those elders were doing a lot of alcohol. They were coping with a lot of their traumas, and so that gap where the culture was almost lost. We lost a lot of our ceremonies. We lost a lot of our culture, the eagle dances, the coyote, even almost lost the bird songs. But thankfully, like I said, some elders, the bird songs alive. And today we're trying to bring back some of these old ceremonies, these ancient, the eagle dances, the coyote dances. We can never probably go back to the traditional way, but we're trying the best we can. But the boarding school has done its damage. I think that I always say that was the nail in the coffin for us. I don't know. I mean, besides the military going in and killing the people, and us fighting them, and then the smallpox blankets and the mission systems, the boarding schools was the one that really hit us the most, and it broke a lot of traditional cultural barriers. My mom married my dad, who's Mexican. A lot of people started dating out. They broke that traditional. My grandmother married somebody from TM, and she was of this clan, they were of that clan. And Coyote married the Tuca, the Wildcat clan, but now that's kind of been broken. And so we're trying to regain that, and trying the next generation, we're all continuing that's left, really. There's about 360 something in my tribe. There's about 80 maybe in my girls' tribe, and there's a tribe here that only has about 7 members. Kumeyaay right here. I don't remember. I think it's Ipai, but there's some tribes that they don't have that members. And then also because of you also have, besides custom and tradition, you have blood quantum, and that blood quantum is I don't know if I want to go into that. That's very controversial. It's very controversial, the blood quantum, but the tribes enact blood quantum. And to be into the tribe, you have to marry other natives, and you count that blood quantum. The generalship in the 1920s, 30s decided this is the way their tribe was going to be ran. So in Agua and some of these other big tribes, you have to be a certain percent. If you marry outside natives, you're after a while your bloodline is considered gone, and you go be a descendant. So times it's very difficult times. It's a lot of pressure for us as tribal members to take on that situation. And there's a lot of reasons why they did that. They don't want the culture and that's what the customs and our traditions are. Our custom and tradition is like the Constitution, where we have, it's a government document between our citizenship and our government. And this is our protocols, are laid out customs, what we need to do as tribal members, because it's not easy. People think, oh, you're a tribal member, that's the end of it. It's not. There's a whole responsibility with being a tribal member. And a matter of fact, I brought this file with me, and this file right here, it's pretty big. It's pretty big right here. These are all the tribal documents that I keep with me. And these treaties, these are blood quantums, these are BIA documents, these are permits for eagle feathers, they're census records, they're the genealogy of family lands and stuff like that. And this is something that it's not an easy burden to carry, but eventually when this is on and I get to pass it on to my kids, I don't have to carry this burden no more. I don't have to be the history person with all these documents here.
Mario, is there a history of people moving back to the reservation? Or because what you're describing is like your mother's generation, that they basically, in order to find opportunity and maybe for their survival, they left the reservation and they went to go live somewhere else, right? And now you're part of the generation who says, wait, I want to go back to our original land.
Yeah, so and I thank COVID for that one. Because you know, I was in school and I was a city Indian. I'm used to being in the city. I didn't really like the reservation because I wasn't used to it. I grew up in the city, but being on the reservation now, it's this whole little world, and it's like I feel the connectedness with the land, with the people here, and I'm thankful that this was probably the last step I needed, because I knew I wanted to come back and I wanted to get to my community, and I wanted to wait until I got my master's, my PhD. But you know what? It's in creators' time, and creators say, you know what? Its time is now. So this was our way of coming back and relearning everything that we needed to learn. This is the last step of getting that power. We believe in the power of the land. Having the power with us and our ancestors, because there's so much spiritual. It's up here. You know, we've been here since the beginning. We have a graveyard here with all our ancestors buried there from the beginning of time. I'm gonna be buried there. My kids are gonna be buried there. If we keep the reservation, because the government can still take the reservation at any time. They did it in 1978 to the Mission Creek Cahuilla reservation. They took the reservation. They can always still come in and do that. They also relocated a village here, Cupeño Village, in Warner Springs and Cupa, on the hill below. Under the Indian Removal Act, they forced the Cupeños to relocate to Paul. So there's still, it's not over. People think it's over. You know, the Indian battles are done. They are done on the battlefields, but they're done in the courtrooms now, and they're done over resources and protecting sovereignty. They're done for other different reasons. If people think it's over and they think, oh, but you need to get involved. That's why I'm involved. And that's what I do to help my government and help my people right here. That's why I brought him, because he's an executive council member. And so he has a bigger responsibility than what I do, I think, because he has to answer to the other families and the other members, and they're running the government. I'm running the government in administration, but he's running the government as a board member. So I was thankful for my brother. We work team and team because we both know what's going on. I tell him what's going on in the office. He can tell me what's going on in the council, and we can like help. How do we make the tribe better, stronger, and leave out all the political strife or the family strife? How do we resolve it? Because it's a whole other system resolving it outside of just politics too, you know.
If we may add to the original question of like people moving to like find opportunity. My grandmother went through like the boarding school process over in Oklahoma, and during the 50s she relocated out here to California. So we see like a lot of like intertribalism, finding each other, trying to find like new roots. Like how I found Mario, I couldn't find anybody that was Choctaw. I couldn't find anything about my own culture, so I found, you know, the California people to teach me. So it's been like individuals being displaced ever since like the colonizers started coming out here, and all the way up to what, the 70s, 80s, and they're still trying to take lands and move people around.
But also some good too, because there's also some tribes that are still getting federal recognition. So it's not completely lost. I mean, because my girl's tribe, she just got federally recognized just within the last 10 years. So it's always going to be a struggle. It's a lot of responsibility. I think the main goal is just not to let it die on your watch. You know, that's my main goal, is like, as long as it doesn't die on my watch. I mean, I'm hopeful. I can only ensure it lasts for the next 60 more years with my son and my daughter. But beyond that, I don't know. You know, I can only be.
Mario. So listen, we fielded some questions. I want to kind of bring it home just a little bit. And this question is really for the panel. This is going to be for Dr. Murillo, Professor John Torres, and Mario. You're going to do the closing statement on that. But this is for our panelists here. What would be what do we need to take away from the native tribes? I mean, it's huge, it's large, it's vast. I mean, even outside of California, if you go to New Mexico, other states where, you know, the populations are probably much bigger, maybe much more organized. But what is the takeaway? What you guys are profound in literature. You guys know the books. You guys know the pulse. You guys, you know, preach the pulse to our students specifically. Dr. Murillo, take a stab at it, and then I'm going to move it on to Professor Torres, and then we're gonna bring it down to Mario. He's going to do the polish at the end. So Dr. Murillo, take it away, please.
Okay. Well, we believe every child deserves the tools to succeed in their life, and that includes school. Education really is part of the fabric of who we are, and we know that education is what opens the doors up to the future. And so what I kind of said earlier, that there's different educations. There's the education that you get from your elders, the education that you get from participating in ceremonial life. There's the education that you get from interacting just with the larger society. But then there's also the education you get from the schooling system. And so it's hard to integrate all these things into one kind of holistic thing. But we do know is that part of any education, there's what you'd call restorative justice. And it has to do with confronting the historical trauma and confronting the cultural contempt for indigenous peoples. There has to be some healing that needs to take place of these historical wounds. There has to be, we have to restore trust in the people. Something that Mario alluded to earlier is this idea that we have to respect the sovereignty of the native nations, and they're still fighting for their sovereignty. The native peoples know what's best for themselves. And so they have to follow, they have to indicate and lead, but we have to help them despite the limited funding. These tribes are trying to rebuild a strong foundation. They're trying to create some kind of sustainability, but resilience. So the takeaway for me is this word called resilience. And so hope is based on that. And so what I said earlier is we need to create horizontal and reciprocal relations with the indigenous peoples of the land, because no one's free until they're free.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Murillo. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right, John, take it away, John. It's all yours.
I guess my big takeaway, and this is something I often think about, is that, that we're still here. That's a big deal, despite all the struggles we've had to cope with. But I think I really want to focus on the fact that, the Indian country has always been a super diverse place. There's always been hundreds of languages and thousands of tribes and tens of thousands of bands, hundreds of thousands of reservations, or at least villages anyway. And it's no different now. We're all super diverse, and we are all sovereign nations. We all control our own enrollment status individually, and and Native people are all around us all the time. The borders we have are artificial borders. Whether you're, the American Southwest dipped way down in Durango at the time. So just kind of keep your eyes on the fact that we are still here and we're all around you, and you can't judge us by how we look. We don't all wear feathers. We don't all wear moccasins. We don't all wear beadwork. We're attorneys and lawyers and backhoe operators and gardeners and educators, you name it. And that really goes true for ourselves. I mean, I think we are sometimes our own worst enemies, and we need to stop judging each other based on who's more Indian than thou and that kind of thing. We all do our best with what we have. And some of us have to go back and learn our language if we need to. I feel very fortunate. We're so many of us that, a lot of us grew up with the language and we know it. We know the stories, we know the creation. But I know the struggles that a lot of smaller tribes have, and keeping that in mind, make sure we have lots of mutual respect with each other, I think will go a long way in helping each other get to where we all want to be.
Thank you, John. Thank you for those closing words. Very good. Mario, this is it, Mario. What should we take away from specifically your tribe, what you've talked about. You touched on a lot of good, really deep stuff. But what should be our takeaway from your wonderful presentation?
Wow, there's a lot. I mean, I really feel, I mean, like I was talking to my brother right now and he was stating, a lot of it has to do with purpose. We have to have our purpose here. A lot of us don't feel like we have our purpose because of our past, our history, and we're still trying to find that purpose. It's very difficult. Sometimes I feel like a ghost. I mean, I was at Cal State sometimes, and I mean, I'd be the only native in the class, and almost all my years there was a very few of us there. And it's kind of like that sometimes, even today. I'm thankful today I live in Indian country, and there's about 30 reservations around me. And you can run into a native anywhere, and everybody knows everybody. But sorry. And so trying to regain that identity and that purpose and getting the strength to move forward. I think also working with educators, and because that helped me out the most too, was reading a lot of these books that these anthropologists, they came, they took photos of us, they studied us, and at the time that was taboo. We recorded some of it because and our elders were against it. But today, that kind of helps save our people and our culture. And that's something that I look into the future. Maybe, continuing that struggle, writing those books, continuing the stories, because, Catherine left a lot of stories, and she wrote 2 big giant volumes of books about the history and the culture, the customs, the principles, traditions. But there's still more work that needs to be done. And I think us moving into the future, we need to utilize technology to make those histories, to make it available, maybe not to the public, all to the public, but maybe at least to our next generation. So I think with purpose, and telling my son, it's going to be an uphill battle, because you're always going to have to deal with, like Mr. Torres was saying, some of these people that are like more native than other native are people that have these struggles. I went to a conference, and it was difficult because there were some people there that were one religion, another, and then I was a city Indian, and they were res Indians, and there was blood quantum, and it was difficult to navigate. So coming together as native peoples and working together to the future of our people is, I think, important, in the purpose for sustainability.
Very good, Mario. Thank you so much. Professor Torres, thank you for your insight. We really appreciate the value you brought to the panel. Dr. Murillo, always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for your insight, and really, it's always a good takeaway from such a rich panel like this. There's always something to be learned, and it's just an awesome feeling that we just know just a little bit more now than what we did when we first started out, which is really, really good. And really, our audience has been strong. We've had a good audience, good questions, and really we continue the whole week with the Heritage Month. But I just want to say also thank you, Mario, for your presentation today. Very meaningful, a lot of value, a lot of depth. Boy, I didn't know we had this in our backyard, and I'm here in San Diego. You know what I mean? But I honestly, I've never been on a reservation, so I only view it, see it, touch it through your eyes and what you say and how you put it out. You know what I mean? We've driven by it, but we've never gone in it. You know what I mean? But Mario, thank you for your insight. Thank you for your performance, the native dance. Thank you for your family, your relatives and friends that participated with you today. We really, really appreciate that. And of course, again, we just thank the panelists for being here. Dr. Tavares will be doing the closing statement. And for now, we're done. Dr. Tavares, take it away, please.
Well, I just want to echo your thanks to Mario Castellano and his group for the amazing music, the incredible dance, and just all the information that was provided tonight. It was an incredibly informative evening and a great learning experience. And thanks, of course, to Dr. Enrique Murillo for his insights, and Professor Torres as well for all that you've contributed and shared with us tonight. And to you, Elias, for kind of spearheading this event and taking the lead on putting it all together. We do have another event coming up. So I wanted to invite all the members of the audience to try to make it on Tuesday, November 17th at 6 p.m. when Professor Ed Gomez from San Bernardino Valley College will be talking about the importance of Native American studies. So thank you to the audience. Thank you for being here, for participating, for the great comments and the excellent questions. And we hope to see you on November 17th for Professor Ed Gomez. And that's it. So thank you very much. And everyone have a great evening.
Bye, Pa. Thank you.
Mm.
Archibald.